Hello and welcome to Odds on Europa League Matchday 7, penultimate match day in our face group. And we have plenty of good games this Thursday back this competition. And we have, of course, Ronan Murphy, Alain Valnegri, our Europa League experts to go around Europe and give you the best tips for these games. For instance, we have Fenerbahce, Aston Villa. We have Roma, Stuttgart. So let's analyze all the best games, in this case 8, with these guys. So remember also, guys, tell me what you think about the games. We want to know your opinion. And now let's go on with the show. Well, match day 7, I guess we have to put our calculators out the pocket and see what the teams need to qualify or to be in the top 8. And the first stop is in Italy. We have Bologna, Celtic, the Glasgow. Bologna doing at the moment way better in Europe than in Serie A. 11 points in Europe, so still with options to be in the top 8 because they beat Celta in the last game in Vigo, and they've only lost one game against Aston Villa. The problem is that they are in a really bad moment in Serie A. They lost to Fiorentina 1-2 at the weekend, not winning since the European Super Cup. And the other problem not to trust Bologna here, Alain, is because Celtic, they've been so poor throughout the season. 7 points, they can still do the playoffs, so not sure if it's the perfect rival for Bologna to bounce back.
No, Bologna, but it's curious because the last good victory was in the last journey in Europa League in Celta, in Vigo against Celta, because after that, after they lose against Juventus at home, Bologna go down, enter in a really negative spiral. And now, what is the problem? Why? Because after Vigo, everybody said, yeah, Bologna is a brilliant team, it's a good project. Me first, and yeah, something was down. Maybe the schedule too, because they play hard game against a big team in Italy. But in the last game against Fiorentina, we saw a Bologna a little sad. They lose passion, and against Celtic is a good moment to change that mind and go back to be the team, the brilliant team we saw the last season. And at the beginning, in the first 2 months of competition, Celtic is not in his better moment. I have a problem with Celtic in the big match. In the big match, Celtic, in my opinion, don't have the level to be competitive. When they played away in Europe, we know the difficulties. The only surprise was the winning in Feyenoord, but Feyenoord is in a really delicate season. For me, Bologna have something more. The only player I saw with passion and with energy in the last game against Fiorentina was Orsolini, and for that I choose Orsolini. Score odds 2.40.
Very ugly defeat, this one for Bologna. Could have been even worse against a struggling Fiorentina. 2 wins for Celtic, Ronan, Feyenoord, as Alain told us, and Sturm Graz. But yeah, indeed, the season has been very poor for Celtic.
Yeah, it is. And now, obviously, they keep changing managers and keep testing out people and then going back to Martin O'Neill. That's what seems to be happening. But when they go back to Martin O'Neill, it seems to work a bit better than when they do have a coach that they are looking at for the long term. And maybe that's the way to do things at Celtic in Scotland. Maybe because their squad usually, I'm not sure their squad is as strong this season, but usually it's much better than everybody else in the Scottish Premier League, and it might be a kind of a Real Madrid of Scotland, that you don't need to coach them like Xabi Alonso. You just need to put your arm around their shoulder and send them out, and then they'll just beat everybody in Scotland. But obviously playing in Europe is much more difficult. task, but Martin O'Neill will tell you, and any time I've ever spoken to him, he's mentioned that he won the European Cup twice as a player. What have you done? But I won the European Cup twice. But yeah, Martin O'Neill will send them out with the kind of confidence that they can do something here against Bologna. They have won the last 3 games domestically, so they are on a good bit of form since he has come back in charge of the club. So I think they can get goals here, and that's maybe something that Celtic fans are kind of annoyed about at the moment, that they don't have a super striker that they have had in the past, and they're relying on maybe Johnny Kenny a bit too much, and they don't have someone that will score so many goals, but they still have players that can score goals. They have been scoring goals. Bologna are on a kind of poor enough run at the moment, only 1 win the last 9, but they've scored in 6 of those. Celtic score in most games. If you look at the both teams that score yes stats, it's 57% of the time for Bologna in all competitions, 45% for Celtic, but that's mostly because when they're playing at home in Scotland, some of the teams don't score against them. So that raises it to 56% when they're playing away from home. So for that reason, I'm going for both teams to score yes here at 187.
Okay, let's see if Bologna are able to end their bad run, at least in Europe, and then focus in Serie A, but it's going to be very difficult for them to qualify for Europe next season. Then we have an interesting game. Fenerbahce, Aston Villa, third in the standings in this Europa League. Aston Villa, so very close to get their top 8 and qualify directly. They lost to Everton. We saw Unai Emery very disappointing with the defeat against Everton after Arsenal or Man City dropped points in the Premier League, and their only defeat, surprisingly, in this Europa League was against 𝐬𝐿, a minor team. So perhaps we can see also a surprise in Istanbul, Ronan, because Fenerbahce are also fighting for the top 8, 11 points. They won recently the Super Cup. The championship in Turkey is really open with Galatasaray. And it's never easy, of course, to go to Istanbul. So many games for Aston Villa. Perhaps they want to focus in this period a little bit more in the Premier League.
Yeah, they're still kind of, I suppose, still in a Champions League spot in the Premier League, and still kind of that slip up at the weekend. I don't think they'll be happy about, because there was even some believers were starting to believe maybe this could be this season for Aston Villa. But yeah, Fenerbahce and Istanbul is always a very difficult place to go. And if you look at where Fener are in the table, they're 12th in the league phase table. They're 9th in the home table because they haven't lost at home yet in Europe this season. So it is a difficult place to go. They've won all 4 of their games so far in 2026, so they are coming into this in great form. Whereas Aston Villa, like you said, they've been quite patchy. They failed to score in 2 of their games so far in 2026, and I think that's a similar problem to what I was saying with Celtic. They don't have maybe that out-and-out goal scorer or in-form goal scorer. We've seen it from the past, Molly Watkins, but we're not really seeing it this season. They let Daniel Malen leave to Roma there just last week, and Malen scored on his Roma debut then, of course. But yeah, so they maybe are lacking the firepower that they have had, despite the fact that they're second in the Premier League. But they don't have someone who is going to bang in goals consistently for them. And maybe that's going to be a problem when you do travel to Istanbul and you do have other competitions to concern yourself with. Because Aston Villa on 15 points at the moment, they should be confident enough of making the top 8. They don't need to come first in the league phase. It doesn't really make any difference. So yeah, they should be confident that they can get something from these next 2 games and maybe avoid going into the playoff round. So yeah, I think this could be a Fenerbahce win. I like to look at 270 because, like I said, Villa have failed to score in 2 games this season or this year so far. So it could be the case that they kind of struggle against Fenerbahce here. If Fenerbahce at home at 270 does look pretty good. You don't usually get those odds in Europa League matches for Fenerbahce, but a draw no bet is probably a bit safer. That's 193.
Well, beating Salzburg in the last game for Aston Villa will be enough to qualify for the top 8. Fenerbahce beat Stuttgart or Nice at home. Alain, I don't think it's a bad idea also backing them somehow here because of the situation that we are talking about.
No, Fenerbahce is clearly one of the best seasons in the last 10 years. Fenerbahce don't win a Turkish Super League since 2014. It's a lot of time. He's the second most title in Turkey, Fenerbahce. But with the new president, maybe we bring something new, and we we saw that in the Super Cup. The Super Cup with the winning against Galatasaray is always important to win the trophy against your biggest rival. Get to this signing is a massive signing for Turkish league and for Fenerbahce. Good winning in the last weekend against Alanyaspor, be able to recover 2 times on the score and score the winning goal with Talisca. Talisca is playing with really high average of goal score. He can be the man of the title, because Galatasaray draw and Fenerbahce right now the feeling is pretty good. The question is most important Super League or Europa League? And I think it's most important Super League right now for Fenerbahce. Aston Villa, the question is, it was an accident against Everton. Aston Villa changed always a lot in the market, and it's difficult to have stability to working until the game against Arsenal. A lot of people said, yes, is the rival for Arsenal for the title, because they're due month September, October, November, and December brilliant. And if they recover that shyness, in my opinion, Aston Villa is the favorite to this Europa League, because Emery is known to win the Europa League, and the team are built to win title. For that reason, in my opinion, Aston Villa will arrive with more motivation in Istanbul. I choose double chance X2 with both teams to score at 1.95.
Okay, kind of the opposite actually. X2 for Alain, Fenerbahce to win, or draw no bet for Fenerbahce for Ronan. If we check a smart bet, in this case, we have first team to score Fenerbahce as the top bet, 1.9, and then goals over 2.5 goals, and then 1x for Fenerbahce. So following a little bit what Ronan was saying, it pays exactly the same, going for Fenerbahce or going for Aston Villa, 2.7. And then we go to Greece, PAOK. Betis, Betis fourth in the standing, so they can do a top 8. They are having a good Europa League. They beat the Dinamo Zagreb, for instance, in the last game in La Liga. They were struggling a little bit, but at the weekend they got an important win against Villarreal. PAOK with 9 points, trying to make it into the playoffs and in good form. We saw a big win in the cup recently against Olympiacos, Alain.
And leader in Super League in Greece right now. They have 1 game more than Olympiacos, but with AEK, they're already leader. Since the beginning of October, PAOK lose only two games against Panathinaikos and against Atromitos, and it was an accident. Clearly, winning in the stadium of Olympiacos is a good moment for PAOK. Now the question is, the team can accept that pressure, because in the north of Greece is always you are fighting against the team in Athens, and they're hungry to win title. Right now the team play a really beautiful football, really offensive, score a lot of goals, and is dominant, and is the model of play really similar to Betis. Probably is a goal market game, that one. Betis suffer only in the big match this season against Barcelona and against Real Madrid, because except that type of game, normally Betis are dominant team, because the technical value is really high. Betis need a striker, a world-class striker. With a world-class striker, Betis is a Champions League team for sure in the Liga. And the winning against Villarreal is important for the Betis, because Betis' objective is go back to the Champions. Right now, they have the quality to arrive that. And playing in Salonika is always difficult. I see something more with PAOK in this moment, and I choose PAOK winning with both teams to score odds 2.15.
Well, it's going to be almost impossible for Betis to qualify via La Liga to the Champions League unless there are 5 teams. Of course, Ronan, what is your take here?
Yeah, I think this is Betis' best chance to qualify for the Champions League. I think, like Alain said with Aston Villa, if Aston Villa get their act together, they could win this trophy, and I think that was the same to be said for Betis. I think if they can hit form at the right time, there's no reason to think that they aren't one of the favourites, or they could go all the way and lift it, and that could be their entry point into the Champions League. Because, like Alain said, it's only in the big matches that they've suffered so far. They've only lost one of their last 8 games, and that was against Real Madrid. They've only lost 4 times all season, which is crazy for a team like Betis when you think about it. And that was against Athletic Club de Bilbao, both Madrids and Barcelona. So it's only the biggest of the big teams that seem to be beating them at the moment. So I'm not going to go for Alain's PAOK. I'm going to disagree again here, because I know PAOK are on a 6-match unbeaten run in Greece. They are top of the table in Greece, although Olympiacos have that game in hand. But I think it's a much bigger ask to be playing a team like Betis, and a win here would secure them their place in the knockout stage without skipping the playoffs. So SmartBet and Alain are both going for PAOK. SmartBet is also going for 1x, I think, for this one, but I'm going to disagree with the robots this time. I'm going to go for a Betis win, because I like the odds. They are quite high for Betis to win here, and like I said, they've only lost 4 times all season, so why can't they win here? 255.
Okay, as they did in Zagreb, for instance. Next one is Viktoria Plzen, Porto, and here we have good 2 teams. Actually, Porto top in the Portuguese league, in the top 8 in this Europa League. They are just 8 with 13 points. One of the favorites also in this competition, beat recently Benfica, the rivals in the Cup. In the Europa League, beat Malmo, beat Nice, but be careful, Ronan, Viktoria Plzen, they don't have the name. The league is stopped since December, but well, they were able to draw with Panathinaikos, Freiburg, and Fenerbahce in this Europa League, all goalless draws, and beat Roma, so doing a good Europa League.
Yeah, they are, but I think maybe the fact that the Czech First League is stopped at the moment, or is on a kind of break, could kind of play into Porto's hands, because maybe you could have a look at Pilsen winning next week, or picking up points next week in their final league phase game in the Europa League. But yeah, they've only played a friendly this month. They don't return to the league until February 1st. Their last competitive game was actually on the 14th of December. So it's a long time since they had a match that had any sort of importance. Porto have won all of their last 9 games. And since the 14th of December, the last time Pilsen have actually played a competitive match, they've won 7 of 7 matches at that time. So Porto are they're on a kind of a steamroller sort of form at the moment. And Pilsen are maybe a little rusty after the winter break, or during the winter break perhaps. So Porto win at 2.15 doesn't look too bad, but I don't think this is going to be a thriller, unfortunately, because like I said, Pilsen are kind of out of match practice at the moment. Porto only have 9 goals scored so far in the Europa League, 5 conceded. Pilsen have only scored 6 and conceded just 2, so they're not playing kind of super entertaining high scoring matches either side. So correct score 0-1. I like to look up here at 7.20 for Porto to win 1-0, but I think another way to look at it is maybe this will be a low scoring affair. I think Porto will be happy to get out of here with some points. They don't need to score too many goals to get those, so under 2.25 goals is 2.06.
Yeah, following what they've done in the Europa League, looks like a good option, Alain.
Yes, Pilsen in local league this season is really bad because they're fourth, but in Europa League there are some prestigious results. Is a team, respect to the past, in my opinion, they lose in his local league, and I don't understand why. He's a strong defense, because in the last 5 seasons we remember Pilsen won his local league, but with a strong defense, and this we are watching that in Europa League. They improve a little, but the fact Ronan said don't play official games since middle of December can have an influence in this game. Porto Porto must to defend the top 8 in the table, but Porto have the focus in the Portuguese Super League, because now they have Gil Vicente is the biggest surprise in Portuguese league, and after in 3 weeks they play the big match against Sporting, and that one can be the definitive winning, because in case of winning against Sporting is more 10 points more, and for Porto it's important to win, and it's important for Farioli, because Farioli have a really bad memory about the management of advantage in Ajax the last season. He lose the title in the last weeks, and to avoid that, I think he is working for that, and he have a big focus about the Portuguese league. For this reason, I think Porto will be so concentrated, and I choose a both team to score odds 1.91.
All right, let's go to Switzerland. Here we have another favorite, Lyon, playing against Young Boys. Lyon that is in really good form in the French league, now in the top 4, also looking to play Champions League next season, and they are topping also the standings in the Europa League with 15 points and only 1 defeat. The addition of Hendrik is another point to take in consideration and to take a look at this Lyon. And Young Boys, Alain, 9 points, also with options to go to the playoffs. They beat Lille and 𝗀𝗲𝗿𝗲𝗀 at home.
Yes, Lille with a player less. The season of Young Boys is really negative. In the Swiss league, he's the favorite. He was the favorite at the beginning of the season. We saw some defeat really heavy before the break. After the break, they lose against Lausanne at home. Yes, it's a bad moment for the institution of Young Boys. They don't see any relevant player to change the things. They changed the manager. Former Mönchengladbach 𝐬𝐭𝐴 came back to Young Boys, but the things don't change. You have the problem is the vestry there, and we saw that with the results. Lyon are in brilliant moment. We can say that brilliant beginning of the year with winning in Lille against Brest. They suffer a little, but we see the offensive powder. Hendrik is a massive signing for the French league, and especially for Lyon, and winning in Monaco. 2 brilliant beginning of the season. In my opinion, Lyon will follow that line. Lyon really favorite. I choose Lyon winning odds 1.75.
All right, indeed. The Young Boys in really poor form, 3 consecutive defeats in Swiss League. Lyon to win 1.77. Good enough, Ronan?
Yeah, I think it is. I think Young Boys, like you said, they've 3 defeats in a row, but they also played 2 friendlies during the winter break, and they lost both of those as well. So yeah, they can't even win the uncompetitive matches at the moment. So yeah, things are not going well for Young Boys. I know they brought 𝐬𝐭𝐴 back, like Alain said, and you would have thought that he would have been able to steer things or to turn a corner a little, but it hasn't seemed to happen. And yeah, it seems to be that this season is a bit of a write-off for Young Boys at the moment. So they do have a chance of making the playoffs here, but Lyon is a very difficult prospect at the moment, and like Alain said, Hendrik has just been sensational since he's arrived. He just kind of lit up the Lyon, and he is really developing there, and it will be great for his parent club when he does return a better and more experienced player. And Lyon at the moment, they're just in fantastic form, won 6 in a row. They've scored 2 or more goals in 5 of those goals, or 5 of those games. So yeah, Lyon win like Alain. I'm going for that. I'm also looking at Lyon over 1.5 goals, which is around the same odds, 173 for that one. But I like the look of Lyon winning and goals in this match. So Lyon to win and over 2.5 total match goals is 232.
All right, let's go to the next game, and this one is a good one. Roma, Stuttgart, 12 points for Roma. Also must win to be in the top 8, although in the Europa League they lost to Pilsen, they lost to Lille, but they got themselves an important win in Serie A against Torino. You mentioned before Malen, new signing and already scoring. Actually, he scored 2. But the first one was disallowed. Stuttgart in a decent form in the Bundesliga, even if they drew against Union Berlin at the weekend, won the last 3 games in the Europa League. Ronan, this is one of the best games we have on Thursday.
Yeah, this definitely looks like the most appealing match in the late kickoffs for Thursday's games, and definitely be tuning into it. Obviously, one eye on the League of Ireland teams that are playing at the same time, and maybe Troy Parish for AZ in the Conference League. But yeah, I'll be tuning into this one and hoping Nottm Forest might be fit enough to make the venture start in this one, because he has a knock at the moment, but it doesn't seem to be bothering Roma at the moment, because they have had forwards scoring a match at the weekend. 2 different forwards, which is kind of rare for them this season. They're actually starting to finally score multiple goals in matches, which hadn't been happening under Gasperini. So we expected it from Gasperini, but we weren't really seeing it. But in the last 4 games, they have scored 2 goals in each of them. So yeah, this is a team that now has remembered how to score goals. And even Ferguson, before his injury, he was getting among them. So yeah, it's good to see Roma actually scoring goals. Stuttgart, as we know, they score lots of goals in the Bundesliga. They score goals as well in Europe. Both teams have scored. Yes, it's happened in all 3 of the games they played in 2026. Both teams have scored. Yes, looks a good option at 169. But I am looking at the away team because of my Bundesliga bias, and I'm looking at the away team and the man who scores the goals for them. Dennis Undav, he scored against Feyenoord. He has 3 assists in his last 2 Europa League games for Stuttgart. He is due a goal in this competition. He also has scored in 2 of the 3 games he's played so far in 2026 in the Bundesliga. So Dennis Undav as an anytime goal scorer is very appealing to me at 350.
Okay, well, both are with 12 points outside the top 8, so they both need to win. Our smart bet is going for X2 in this case. For Stuttgart, there is not such a case of the Olímpico factor anymore, Alain, at least this season with Roma.
No, they lose a lot of games. Go out in Coppa Italia against Torino. They lose 2 games against Torino at home, losing against Pilsen, against Lille. It's a little strange, but in my opinion, with Malen, something will change with Roma, because it was difficult playing without the striker who Gasperini need, and Malen attack the space like Gasperini wants and Gasperini needs, and we saw the improvement clearly against Torino. Last Sunday, and with Dybala behind, when you have an animal of space like Malen, is easier to win game. Now Stuttgart is a good test for Roma. Stuttgart is, I think, the 3rd team with more possession in Bundesliga, and I am really curious to see Roma attack in transition, because I think Roma will be let the ball to Stuttgart. Stuttgart, maybe one of the weak points of Stuttgart is the negative transition, was their must to run behind. And with Malen, in my opinion, something will change with Roma, with Robinho. Vaz too is a similar way to attack the space and watch the goal. Roma need to win. I think Roma is in a very good moment, and I choose Roma winning, odds 1.95.
Great game, this one, and then we go to Portugal. Sporting Braga, Nottingham Forest, 13 points for Braga, so in the top 8. At home they lost to Genk in this Europa League, although they are doing a good Europa League campaign, not the same for the domestic competitions, recently out of the cup, for instance. And Nottingham Forest is struggling in the Premier League. Alain, although doing slightly better recently, drew with Arsenal, for instance, and keeping a distance with the bottom three, and well, they beat already a Portuguese team in this Europa League. They beat Porto.
Yeah. Yes, and we saw the best version of Nottingham Forest in some games in Europa League against Betis. Too, we saw the version we saw rarely in the Premier League. The last months is terrible for Nottingham Forest. For the feeling, the average of points, maybe the draw against Arsenal can be changed a little, that feeling. But we see a team lacking unconfident, and it's difficult to trust in this team in Premier League. They will fight against the end, against relegation. And yes, against Braga is sad. Braga lose the final in Taça da Liga against Guimarães after winning Benfica in semi-final. Out of the Taça de Portugal against Fafé, who plays in the third division in Portugal. Yes, a shy reaction against Tondela and winning 1-0, but Tondela is not doing a really good season. In my opinion, Forest have something more right now, in spite of his sad season. But the game against Arsenal can be changed, the things. For that reason, I choose double chance 𝐻𝐿 with 1.5 goals in the games, odds 1.95.
Okay, Ronan, still really good odds indeed to back Forest. 2.5. Braga is one of these teams that they always do a good European campaign.
Yeah, they are. And Forest, we obviously don't know much about the European campaigns because they haven't been in Europe too much. They were back in Europe back in those Martin O'Neill days that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, back with Martin O'Neill, back many moons ago, they were a big European Cup sort of side. But yeah, it is a different sort of test for Nottm Forest. And they have had a lot of tests so far this season. But like Alain said, I think that the Arsenal test at the weekend kind of should give them confidence going into this one. And Braga, they actually get to play at home in 2026. I don't think it's happened yet. They've played 5 games so far this year. I think all of them have been away, which is kind of very strange. I suppose they're having the cups and stuff, and that they're kind of helped that fixture kind of anomaly happen. But yeah, Forest are a team. I think they have maybe turned a little corner so far recently, and I think they can kind of improve a bit, and they can get to the knockout stage of the playoffs of the Europa League. But I think Braga will be confident enough themselves of getting to the playoffs or the knockout stage here too. So this is a match I think there could be goals in. So I'm having a look at the goal market. I'm having a look at a specific goal market. Braga, they've scored 40% of the goals between minutes 16 and 30 in the Europa League so far this season. Nottm Forest have scored 45% of their goals between minutes 16 and 30. That's all in the first half an hour. So all in the first half. Over 1.5 goals at halftime is 47% in all competitions for Braga. It's 33% for Forest, but obviously a lot of their matches were in the Premier League where they have not been playing as well. So I'm looking at over 1.25 first half goals, which is 2.36.
And the last game is Celta Lille, both with 9 points, very likely. Both will play the playoffs in the month of February, I think it is, because Celta lost to Bologna and 𝐵𝗲𝗿𝗄. They had it in their hand to be in the top 8, and in Europe they are not getting the results they are getting in La Liga, because now they are very close to the European spots. They are in a good moment in La Liga, whereas for Lille they are having a bad start of the year, out of the cup, lost to PSG, out of the top 4 also in Ligue 1. Well, in this European campaign, Ronan, I think also they could have done better.
Yeah, I think so, especially on the road. I think they've been disappointing in some of their away fixtures, and they've only scored 1 away goal in the Europa League phase this season, and that's it's not really good enough, and it will be a tricky place to go to Celta in the form that they're on, because they have not won yet in 2026. That was a disaster against PSG in their last game on Friday, 3-0. didn't put it in a good performance, and it was a thoroughly deserved kind of 3-0 defeat. Celta, on the other hand, they're unbeaten in 6 matches. The 3 wins, or in La Liga, they're unbeaten in 6 matches, 3 wins in a row in La Liga, and they are kind of knocking on those kind of spaces at the top to get themselves in back into a good European competition next season. This is the one where I have to look at Celta win. I really like the odds of that at 246. I like even more Celta to win to 0 at 450 because of that stat that I said about Lille not scoring on the road in the Europa League. They have been really disappointed. And so, yeah, either of them I'm going to take, because I think Celta have to be considered the favourites here, and I do like a home favourite at over 2 in any match.
Alain, this Celta also looking better in this part of the season than at the beginning, when they were struggling a lot in La Liga, drawing so many games. It's actually what we expected, I think, from this young team. Playing well is an interesting project, the one created by Giraldez.
Yes, no, and one of the most funny team in Liga to play with that. Is a fresh team, with a lot of solution in an offensive way, with a lot of individual talent, with the veteran Borja Iglesias and Iago Aspas. And yes, at the beginning there miss experience, there miss madness to manage the results, and they catch a lot of draw in a lot of game when they deserve something more. Right now, I think they have the point of maturity to manage better that one. And in the last 3 games, 3 victory, only 1 goal received, 7 or 8 goal score. We saw the best version of Celta right now. And in change, Lille is not the worst, but is a team with a lot of difficulties right now. 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲 is injured in AFCOM and can be add that offensive powder the team right now need, because Lille only scored 1 goal in the last 3 games, and it was a little not the most important week of the season, but it was a week to understand for what Lille can be compete this season, because Lyon, Stade Rennais and PSG are fighting for massive objective in Ligue 1, and they lose both games. They deserve maybe something more in the content, especially against Lille in French Cup, but it's not, the team don't arrive with a good feeling in Vigo. And for that reason, I choose Celta Vigo over 1.5 goals in the game, odds 2.10.
All right. Well, we have a smart bet for this game. Is let me check. Lille first half results. So Lille to lead at halftime, and is 3.5 because they are also the underdog for this game. Lille to win is 3. Celta de Vigo favorites here to win 2.4. Well, these are the best games we have on Thursday. Some good games. Actually, this time, remember, of course, that we have our tipster competitions going on, so you can win some money. Post your tips for free in Oddspedia and win some money. And also you can check out Rivals, where you can create your own tipster competitions. Let's go with your safe bets. Ronan, safe bet?
My safe bet is Lyon, Asian handicap 0 at 137.
Alain, safe bet?
Roma Stuttgart, double chance 1x, odds 1.31.
And the ACCA, Alain?
Rangers Ludogorets over 1.75 goals. Fenerbahce Panathinaikos over 1.75 goals. Roma Stuttgart double chance 1x with over 1.5 goals. And Salzburg Basel, both teams to score, odds 4.11.
There you go. And Ronan?
Yeah, I've gone for a one that should take me less time to read out than Alain's. I've gone for Betis Asian handicap 0 and Lyon to win at 335.
Okay, simplicity in this case. Thank you, Alain. Thank you, Ronan. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.